Hey everyone, and welcome to our chapter on string operators. String operators, just like arithmetic operators, simply allow us to manipulate strings. Now, this makes a lot of sense if you think about the plus sign, for example. If we want to add two strings together, like hello, John, then it makes a lot of sense. However, we can't subtract strings from each other, because just like the computer, we also wouldn't know what to do if you're trying to subtract one string from another string. Now, adding string together is called string concatenation. I know, it's a bit of a mouthful. Now, the second thing that we have, or the second arithmetic operator that we can use on strings, is the multiplication sign. Basically, what it would do is it would simply repeat the string over and over and over again. Now, we have a couple more string operators that are not arithmetic operators. Like we have the membership in sign, which basically tells us if a string is found within another string, or if a letter is found within another string. And we can also use the exact opposite, the not in, to know if something doesn't exist within a specific string. If, for example, we don't have a name inside a string. Now, the final string operator that we have is string slicing and indexing, which we've already covered in our previous chapters, so we don't need to cover it again. Now let's jump right into the code and see how we do this. The first thing you'll notice in your notebook is that you have the list of string operators over here in case you forget. Now the first string operator that we mentioned was string concatenation, basically the plus operator. So what we're going to do is we're going to create two variables over here. The first one is name, which will hold our name, John. The second one is going to be greeting, which will hold a greeting of hello, followed by a comma and a space, because Python doesn't automatically add spaces when we concatenate strings. Then, in order to concatenate them, all we need to do is simply use the plus sign. So we have greetings plus name plus, and then we're also adding an exclamation mark. We want to make sure that this user or this person actually knows that we're happy to see them. And the result is going to be hello, John, with an exclamation mark. Now, it's very important to know that we can use a plus operator both with number and strings. However, if we try to add a number to a string, we're going to have an issue. We're going to in fact get an error. The error is that we can't combine numbers and strings with concatenation. We actually need to convert the numbers into strings, which we had already learned. Now you can also see this in the error over here. There's a type error, and it says can only concatenate strings, not integers, into a string. Now, if we want to see how we can add that integer, we simply need to convert it into a string, as we learned earlier, basically using casting. Now we have my name is John, and I am 42. Now, we mentioned earlier the string repetition, which basically uses the asterisk sign. There aren't many uses for it, but if you are of an artistic mindset, then you might actually enjoy using string repetition. So the way that it works is we're going to create a word, John, and for this example, we're going to create a border. The border is going to be using the asterisk sign. So we're essentially going to multiply the border 10 times. Or multiply the asterisk sign 10 times. Then we're going to first of all print the border, which will get the result like this over here. Then we're going to print the asterisk sign followed by a space with the word that we want encased inside that border. Then we're also going to close the border with a right side border. And finally, we're going to print the border itself, the 10 asterisk sign again. The result is going to be like this. Now, as you can see, John isn't really in the middle. Now, perhaps we might need to add another space over here and over here, and then we'll get a perfectly bordered word. Now, you can go ahead and do this as much as you want or figure out how to draw whatever it is that you'd like to draw, but there aren't really many uses for the string repetition. We'll learn how to use a string membership operator in our next chapter. Now, it's your turn to go ahead and start exercising everything that we've learned in this chapter.